What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another video, man, from the League FFB. Today we are going to talk some Dynasty fantasy football. I wanted to make sure that we got you guys five of my favorite free agent wide receivers in fantasy this year. All of these guys will be likely looking for new teams. They're all unrestricted free agents and potentially buy lows in your fantasy football dynasty leagues. And I guess without further ado, we could really just get into it. Let's not waste any time here. I wanted to just show you real quickly. Let me pull this up onto the screen. I did want to ask myself what teams currently have the most cap this offseason. So as I was looking through that, you see I got 5 arrows right here. Those are the top 5 teams with the most cap space in the NFL, all likely to need wide receiver help as well. So we got the Chicago Bears, the Atlanta Falcons, the New York Giants, the New England Patriots, and the Houston Texans. All of those teams are going to need wide receiver help, and all of those teams are in the top 5 in projected cap. Just to round out that top 15, you see it there. We got the Bengals, probably no wide receivers needed there. The Seahawks, same. Ravens could use a wide receiver. Raiders could possibly use a wide receiver. Lions probably don't need wide receiver help. The Cardinals, it's really going to come down to DeAndre Hopkins and what they decide to do with him. The Broncos probably don't need help. The Colts, maybe. The Chiefs, they'll need some wide receiver help this offseason. And the Commanders, they likely don't need wide receiver help. But really, let's get into my top 5, man. I want to get into the first one. He's likely to be the highest paid cream of the crop for free agents this offseason. And keep in mind, the wide receiver class this year for free agency is not great. It really isn't that good of a wide receiver class. Some guys are going to get overpaid. You're going to get surprised with a little bit of contracts that happened this offseason. But really, more than anything, let's just get to the first guy. And that is Juju Smith-Schuster, right? So Juju Smith-Schuster, all of this is brought down from Spot Track or Spotrac or however you want to say it. It's really just a website where you can look at sports contracts, and they do a calculated market value. So they are going to calculate based on history what they think these guys are going to get here in this free agency cycle. And as you can see, they think Juju Smith-Schuster is going to land an average annual salary of around $14.6 million, market value of 4 years, $58 million. And that would probably be the highest paid wide receiver in this year's market. Similar contracts in history are Christian Kirk, Hunter Renfrow, Allen Robinson, Robbie Anderson, a couple other guys, right? So let's just talk about these potential landing spots or the potential fits that I have come up with. You see them on the right side of the screen. Potential fits here for the wide receiver of the Chiefs, Juju Smith-Schuster, is the Chicago Bears. I think they are the most wide receiver needy team in football this year, and they have the most money. So it just makes sense to plug Juju there. I think he would go in. He would be instantly probably their wide receiver 1. I think he's more talented than Mooney. I think he's more talented than Claypool. And you could put him in that slot role there, help Justin Fields out a little bit more, and even reunite him with Claypool a little bit. So I don't think it's a bad fit for the Chicago Bears. Juju could be the wide receiver 1 in Chicago at the end of the offseason. But my second fit is the Atlanta Falcons, man. Atlanta has a pretty solid receiving core with Drake London and Kyle Pitts. But they really lack talent outside of those two guys. They have a ton of cap space this offseason. I think Drake London could benefit from having a guy like Juju on the opposite side of the field. The Atlanta Falcons, they have the money, and they really need to just follow the blueprint that we've seen over the last couple of years of loading the room up with talent and then helping your rookie or new quarterback out. And that's what they're going to have to do with Desmond Ridder this offseason. So I could see Juju Smith-Schuster landing in Atlanta. Third, I could see him going to the Giants as well. The Giants don't have a ton of wide receivers that they can rely on. Juju would go over there and he would be the best wide receiver on that team pretty much instantly. They have money. They have already talked about needing to go in and get another wide receiver this offseason. If they don't draft one, they're likely to draft one. But if they decide that they'd rather sign one, Juju might be the guy. And I could see him being a good fit there in New York. Last two, I could see him going to the Raiders and playing alongside Davante Adams, I think we all have seen up to this point that Juju Smith-Schuster is a better wide receiver 2 for your team than he is a wide receiver 1. Not to say that he's not going to get paid like a 1 and not that he's going to get an opportunity to go be a 1, but I think we've seen he does better when he is not the first option in your passing offense. And having Davante Adams on the other side would be fantastic for Juju. I think Juju would fit well in Las Vegas, and he could be a good fit for the Raiders moving forward. And then lastly, I think the Kansas City Chiefs is not out of the question to re-sign him. I think Kansas City, they haven't maybe got what they wanted out of Juju so far, but I don't think that he's been super disappointing for the Chiefs as well. I mean, they've gone to a Super Bowl. I think Juju's kind of fit well there. I think he enjoys being in Kansas City. We've seen him comment on it a couple times. And if they're willing to pay, I think Juju's willing to stay. So Kansas City is not out of the realm of possibilities for me as far as potential fits this offseason for him. But let's get into my second wide receiver of the offseason that I want to talk about as far as free agency and buys. And that is Jakobi Meyers. Now, Jakobi is an interesting case. He's not a household name. He's not really a flashy wide receiver. He's not anybody that's going to get you super excited. But I think Jakobi Meyers is a really good wide receiver in the NFL. Jakobi, he is a really good route runner. He's going to be a really complementary piece to somebody in an offense, and he's going to I think he's really going to surprise people with the amount of money that he's going to get this year and the amount of interest that he's going to have. But you can see it. The calculated market value for him is 12.5 million, with a 4-year deal likely to happen for him this offseason. Similar comparable players at this time of their careers were Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin, Jarvis Landry, Corey Davis. There's guys like that, right? So when I look at Jakobi Meyers, I think the Dallas Cowboys is the best fit for him. And I say this because I know Jerry wants to go get another guy. I know they have Michael Gallup there, but Gallup hasn't really been what they've wanted him to be since they've paid him. They do need to have another guy opposite of CeeDee Lamb, and I think Jakobi would complement CeeDee Lamb perfectly. If I were to pick any place in football, this would be the one that I want, and I think this would be fantastic for fantasy football. Jakobi could help that team out a ton, and it would be really good for fantasy football. So Jakobi Meyers would be a great fit for the Dallas Cowboys. Let's just keep going down the list, man. Green Bay is a good fit for him, I think. They need a guy that can complement Christian Watson, somebody that can be a little bit of a veteran leader in that locker room for Romeo Doubs and Watson himself. And I think that Jakobi would be a great fit for the Packers if they were looking to spend some money on a wide receiver finally in a free agency period for him. So I think the Green Bay Packers is a good fit for Jakobi. Wouldn't mind seeing him go there. I think the Houston Texans is a good fit for him. Houston has mentioned that they want to move on from Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks has mentioned that he wants to move on from Houston. Jakobi could be a great replacement for Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks is kind of that middle to short field route runner. Sorry about that, but that's really just what he is. And Jakobi is really going to be that too. Occasionally Cooks will stretch the field, and I think Meyers has the ability to do that as well. But I think he would just be a good plug and fit play for them. You could put him opposite of Nico Collins, and then hopefully a stud rookie wide receiver, maybe a Quentin Johnston or somebody that they draft here in the early rounds. And then you could really round out that wide receiver room. Help a rookie quarterback, somebody like CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Levis, whoever it is that you're going to draft in the draft. And it would be a good fit for Jakobi Meyers, I think, as well. Then you see we got the two birds down there, right? The Atlanta Falcons, for all the reasons that I've talked about before for Juju, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. They need another guy that can run routes smoothly on the opposite side. Jakobi would fit perfectly there. And then the Baltimore Ravens, I think, is a decent fit for him. They really do need to go get somebody outside of Rashad Bateman and outside of Mark Andrews. I think we've seen that Bateman has had some health struggles in his career so far. And once he goes down, they don't really have anybody else. And so getting another guy, beefing up that room, making sure that you have some depth there and some quality depth at that in Jacoby Myers. I think that's a good fit for the Baltimore Ravens. It may not be the greatest fantasy football fit for him, uh, but I think it would be a solid NFL fit for him, and it's a real possibility this offseason, in my opinion. We also have Alan Lazard. I'm not a huge Lazard fan, but he is probably one of the top 3 to 4 free agents that are going to be free agents this offseason. You see, he's 27 years old. They're saying that his market value is going to be about 12.5 million a year, probably a 3-year deal. Similar guys would be the Nelson Aguilar's, Christian Kirk's, Corey Davis's, MVS type of wide receivers that have signed over the past couple of years. I think when I'm looking at him, man, it comes down to those potential fits, right? I think Chicago, for reasons that I've stated before, they have a lot of money. They need wide receiver help. This just makes sense. He would be a good complementary piece on the opposite side of Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool. It's not flashy, and it's probably not what Chicago Bears fans want, but it is likely a reality that Alan Lazard will be somebody that they are looking into this offseason. I think the New England Patriots could be a good fit for Lazard. They need wide receiver help. Mac Jones needs help. Nelson Aguilar and Jacoby Myers are both free agents this offseason, so they're going to need to go get somebody. Lazard is a big-bodied wide receiver, kind of similar to what they tried doing in Devontae Parker this last offseason, but I think Lazard is probably more talented than Devontae Parker at this point in their careers. Lazard could be a New England Patriot by the end of the offseason. I also think that he could possibly go to the Tennessee Titans. If he goes to the Titans, he would be playing the opposite side of the field of Treylon Burks. Could be a good compliment. The Titans do need to add another wide receiver in that room. Robert Woods has not turned out to be what they wanted him to be. Opening up the field for Treylon Burks is not a bad thing for Tennessee. And possibly with a new offensive philosophy, they could be opening up that wide receiver and that passing game a little bit more moving forward. So let's get to the last two. I know we're going kind of quickly, but I didn't want to make this video too long. I do think that the Carolina Panthers could use a guy like Alan Lazard. They did recently move on from Robbie Anderson. They tried to make a trade for Laviska Shenault, which hasn't looked to be very good for them. And they drafted Terrace Marshall, which I know some people in the Dynasty community are going to have some buzz for in this offseason, but he hasn't looked good either. And I think Alan Lazard would be a good complementary piece to DJ Moore. DJ Moore is a route technician. He's going to break you down in whatever type of route tree he wants to run. And Alan Lazard is more so of a go up and get it and beat you on the long ball kind of wide receiver. So I think they would complement each other well. You pair them with maybe a rookie quarterback that you draft, and you start to all of a sudden build this wide receiver room that could really help the development of a rookie quarterback. Lazard to Carolina just makes sense to me, and I think it's a good fit for them, and they have the money to spend. And then I know Lazard has already talked this offseason about how he will not be back in Green Bay. I think mainly a lot of that conversation was about Rodgers. And this is really going to come down to Rodgers as well. But I think if the Packers want Lazard to stay in Green Bay, I think he would stay in Green Bay. And they just need a guy like him. It's not sexy. It's not anything crazy. It's a boring pick, but I think Alan Lazard would benefit from staying in Green Bay. I think Green Bay could benefit from him staying there as well, especially if it was like a 1-year deal and just, this isn't the class to go get it. Maybe it is. I don't know, but it's a possibly a good fit for Alan Lazard there. So let's get over here to my last pick. And I will say this is probably not in your favorite content creators or your favorite fantasy analysts, top 5 free agent wide receivers, but I'm a fan of this guy. And I think that there's going to be a market for him this offseason. I would be trying to buy him low in a little bit of my dynasty leagues this offseason. That is DJ Chark. DJ Chark here, man. He is, and I said last one. This is second to last. My last one is going to be somebody who's really out of the blue, but we'll see. DJ Chark, average annual market value is going to be about 9.5 million, 3 years. We do have the comparable contracts of Tim Patrick, Nelson Aguilar, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Russell Gage. What I'm looking like here is I think DJ Shark would be a fantastic fit for the Kansas City Chiefs. If DJ Shark ends up going to the Chiefs, you could see a significant spike in fantasy value. I think he just fits what they have there. He's not going to cost them a lot of money, and it would be a really good piece, I think, for Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes and him would get along very well as far as the chemistry on the field will go. Can't speak for anything off the field, right? But I do also think that he could be a good fit for the Dallas Cowboys. I've already talked about CD needing another guy on the opposite side of the field. They could be looking at a guy like Shark. He could also go to the New England Patriots. Again, this is kind of similar to the take that I had earlier about trying to replicate what they did in Devontae Parker and getting a guy who's actually probably a better player at this point in his career. Again, you could go to the Houston Texans. They have a lot of cap space, and they are going to need to beef up a wide receiver room for a rookie wide receiver. And then lastly, you have the Cleveland Browns. I think the Cleveland Browns could be a good fit for him. They do have Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones, although I said in my trade reviews just the other day that I think if given the opportunity to upgrade from Donovan Peoples-Jones, they might actually look to do that. And I think DJ Shark would be a great upgrade from Donovan Peoples-Jones. Gives Watson just another weapon on the offense. He can really go up and get it. There's going to be lots of red zone targets for him in Cleveland, and it really is just a good football move for the Cleveland Browns if they wanted to go get DJ Shark. Would be a solid fit for fantasy football too. And then last but not least, I said I was taking a shot in the dark. I like Darius Slayton, man. And he's not expected to get the biggest of contracts. They're saying 3.5 million over for his average salary over the course of 2 years. But Darius Slayton is sneaky, dude. You could probably get him for next to nothing in your dynasty leagues. He would be getting similar contracts to guys that you really don't want to be in the same conversation as Kendrick Bourne, Braxton Berrios, Traquan Smith, Khalif Raymond. But hear me out. Potential fit for him could be the Los Angeles Chargers. If Darius Slayton goes to the Los Angeles Chargers, I think you would really want to have him on your fantasy teams because we've seen rumors this offseason about Keenan Allen potentially being a cut candidate for the Chargers. And then even if Keenan Allen is not a cut candidate for the Chargers, I think Darius Slayton could be a better wide receiver than Josh Palmer has been for them. I think he's more talented. He can stretch the field. You pair him with a big arm like Justin Herbert, and you're going to get big play touchdowns. And it would just be just an upgrade, man. Anytime you go from the Giants to the Chargers, as far as fantasy points go, that's an upgrade, man. And there's just a lot more to go around. The pie's a little bit bigger when Justin Herbert's throwing you the ball than it is Daniel Jones. So Darius Slayton to the Chargers would be one of my dream scenarios for him this offseason. If he went there, you would see a significant increase in value, in my opinion. I also think that the Green Bay Packers could use him. Like we said, if they decide to move on from Aaron Rodgers, which I think the more and more I look at it, it is likely that they're going to move on from Aaron Rodgers. They're going to need to get Jordan Love or whoever their next quarterback is some help. Darius Slayton's the field stretcher. He's a good route runner. He's going to be a guy that is affordable, but you're going to get the bang for your buck as far as an NFL franchise goes. I like Darius Slayton to the Green Bay Packers. I think the third most is he just stays in New York, right? It's worked out well. He had a decent season this year. I think Brian Daboll's talked really well about him in the locker room. Could just be a good fit, take a hometown discount, and stay there in New York. They were a playoff team this year. Maybe he just wants to stay at home. I also think the Titans, like we talked about, they need to have another guy opposite Treylon Burks. Darius Slayton could be a good fit opposite Treylon Burks. And then again, the Cleveland Browns, they could need a guy opposite of Donovan Peoples-Jones. Now, I don't know if Darius Slayton is a significant upgrade over Donovan Peoples-Jones, but he could be a little bit of an upgrade over Donovan Peoples-Jones. And depending on the price and what kind of market Darius Slayton gets in this offseason market, I do think that this would be a good fit. I don't mind having Darius Slayton being paired with Deshaun Watson and being opposite of a guy like Amari Cooper, because when you're opposite a guy like Amari Cooper, you are going to get a lot of easier coverage. You're going to get a lot of secondary targets that when Cooper is covered, it's coming this way. You're going to be open and it's going to be long touchdowns and things like that. So I don't mind having Darius Slayton as a is a very, very cheap buy for your dynasty rosters this offseason. And if he doesn't sign anywhere good, you didn't lose a lot. You paid very little for him. But if he signs to somewhere like the Chargers, man, you could be very happy that you went and bought him this offseason. So as far as that goes, let me get this off the screen, man. Those are my top 5 fantasy free agent wide receivers this offseason. Go buy who you want. Don't buy who you don't. And at the end of the day, man, have fun. This is fantasy football. Stick to your gut. Do what you got to do. I'm just here to provide the information. If you like it, take it. If you don't like it, move on. Anyways, I appreciate you guys checking out the video. I will see you guys on Monday. We're going to have a live stream. So go ahead and come in and check that out. We'll be talking top 10 dynasty quarterbacks with my boy War. So go ahead and hop on that. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out, man.